UFC 311 is coming up this upcoming Saturday, and I'm going to be going over the entire card, all 14 fights. I already made a video on the main event and co-main event, breaking it down very in-depth. But for this video, I'm just going to be going over my prediction, because I said those were just early picks, and how I see the fight going, if they get a finish, decision, stuff like that. For the rest of the card, again, I also made a video on Moicano and Dariush, a lot more in-depth than this prediction. But still, getting straight into it, the main event, Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. I feel like that this is very unique because when you have the pound-for-pound fighter, usually they're pound-for-pound because they fought the number one guy, the number two guy, the guy in the lower division, the guy in the other weight class. This time we're having the pound-for-pound number one versus the number one contender, which usually doesn't happen. It's almost like when Usman fought Leon. Leon wasn't the number one guy. He was like 2, 3, 4, something like that. But we're getting the pound for pound versus the number one contender in a very close fight. I've been picking Arman for a while until I started actually breaking down the fight and how I see this going. I think both guys are going to be shooting. I think Arman's going to be a little bit more desperate for the takedown. And I think Islam's takedown defense, with how good it is, he's going to stuff a lot of the takedowns, and there's going to be a lot of clinch exchanges, which Islam, I don't think, has ever lost in the clinch. He is one of the best clinch fighters in the UFC, and I think he's going to be ripping knees to the body. The knee up the middle that was there against Volk is going to be there. I think Islam is better in the pocket, and I think Arman is going to get wobbled in the fight, similar to how Volk got wobbled against Islam, because I think Arman is very lazy with his jab. He likes to double up or triple up, and yes, his jab is very fast. He is very fast, explosive, but he gets caught for it when he keeps on doing the same patterns, and he did that with Oliveira, and Oliveira was able to catch him. Arman just was unfazed, and he ate the shot. Islam is a little bit faster than Oliveira, so I think it's going to hurt a little bit more. So I do think he is going to wobble Arman. I think both guys will land good kicks. Islam with the body kicks to set up the head kicks. Arman does have really good body kicks as well. They're super fast, and I think he'll use them. I think he's going to hope to gas out Islam with the body kicks, in my opinion. I think both will be hesitant in the first round, and I think every round the fight's going to get more and more exciting, and I think it's going to be a great fight, arguably fight of the night. Maybe Jamahal Hill and Jiri takes it, if that's not an early finish, but I do think this has fight of the night potential. I think both guys will take each other down. I don't think we'll see a finish. And I think that Islam is going to pull it off. I think he's going to win 48-47 in my opinion. Very close fight. I'm switching my pick. I really want to pick Arman because Islam has no business being a 4-1 favorite. But I just see him winning. I just think he's better on the feet. And I think Arman will take him down, but I don't think he'll be able to control him for long periods of time, in my opinion. Moving on to the co-main event, Merab versus Umar. Both guys, again, kind of similar to the previous fight. Both guys are going to land takedowns, in my opinion. I don't think that the main and co-main are going to end up like Colby and Usman, where two wrestlers, two grapplers, they just decide to stand and bang. I don't think that that's really going to happen. I do think all four of these guys are going to try to wrestle. I think Merab can rush takedowns, which kind of will lead to him spending time on bottom, similar to the Henry Cejudo fight. I think in order to negate the wrestling, Umar is going to throw a bunch of front kicks also to keep Merab at distance, at kicking range, where Umar thrives. And I think Merab's only path to victory is either control him on the fence, like Jose Aldo, which I don't think is going to happen. Umar is also really good in the clinch. I think he's better than Merab in the clinch. Or he shoots 60 takedowns like he did against Peter Yan, because Merab's only advantage in this fight, in my opinion, is his gas tank, which is his advantage against every single fighter in the UFC. I'm pretty sure he's on EPO. I mean, both of these guys are definitely on sauce, but I think Merab, that's his main path. Just shoot, shoot, shoot. It's definitely possible. He'd 50-45 Peter Yan. I'm not saying he can't get it done. I just think Umar is pretty much better everywhere, and I think he's going to win a close decision. I think Merab is going to put up a good fight, and I think Umar is going to win 48-47. Moving on to the featured fight, Jamahal Hill versus Jiri Prochazka. This is just a mirror matchup between two guys who have had very similar career paths. They both won the title, had to vacate because of an injury, and then ended up fighting Alex Pereira in their return fight very bad, and they both got knocked out. How do I see this fight going? So some things to note, both guys have zero defense at all. They're all offense. Both of them keep their hands right down by the waist. I think Jamahal Hill, I think his chin is pretty good, even though he got knocked out by Pereira. He's taken massive shots before, and he's hardly gone down. I think Jiri also he doesn't have a good chin. He has good recovery, where he's able to stay in the fight. Glover had him wobbling all over the place in that 5th round. And obviously Jamahal Hill dominated Glover. Jamahal Hill has the much better kicks than Jiri Prochazka. And I think the head kick that he landed against Glover, I think that he can land it against Jiri. Jiri just got knocked out by a head kick. Obviously, Pereira has better kicks than Jamahal Hill, but with how bad Yuri's defense is, I could totally see Jamahal Hill rocking him with the head kick or finishing him with it. I could also see a similar situation to the Cesar Almeida fight, where he rocks Jiri. Yuri's up against the fence. Obviously, I don't think anyone's shooting takedowns. And I think Jamahal Hill gets a little too overconfident, and Jiri lands the counter, and he just KOs. He sleeps Jamahal Hill. I could definitely see that. This is the definition of a pick'em. It seriously is. I think a decision is possible, crazy enough. But since they both just got knocked out, I think one of them is going down. And I think it's going to come down to who can land the blow first. I think that it's so tough. I think that Jiri only needs 1 to 2 shots to finish Hill. I think Hill needs 3 to 4 shots to finish Jiri. I think Hill's power is a little bit overrated. Hill definitely has solid power, but it's not like one punch knockout. Yes, he knocked out Johnny Walker. Everyone has. He is powerful, but he's not on the same level as a Jiri or a Pereira for the power. But because of how much damage Jiri has taken, it may just take a Jamahal Hill to flatline him now. We don't know how his chin is. This is very tough to predict. I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill. I'm rooting for Jiri. I have a feeling Jiri gets it done, but I think I've picked against Jiri in every one of his fights ever, just because I don't think he's that good. I don't think Jiri's that good. I think Jamahal Hill is good, and I think that he's going to win this fight early, 2nd round TKO. I think Jiri's chin is kind of done. Moving on to the next fight, Moicano versus Dariush. Again, I made a whole video on this. Moicano, he will struggle against Dariush. I was picking Moicano for a long time. I said I'm never picking against him again. It's just Moicano. When I was looking at the fight, I really wanted to pick him, but after watching the tape, I just think of more reasons that Beneil is going to win rather than Moicano. I think that he is good enough to stuff the takedowns, where I do think Beneil will get taken down. I don't think he'll get controlled. I think that he has good jiu-jitsu, where I don't think he's going to get submitted. I think that he's good enough at scrambling that he could stay on his feet. I think his chin is good enough where Moicano isn't going to flatline KO him. I think his cardio is good enough where he can hang in the 3rd round and push the pace. I think he has good kicks, and he's super powerful that he can hurt Moicano. I think this will mostly be scored on the feet, and I trust Dariush more on the feet, even with him getting knocked out twice in a row. I'm going Dariush, 29-28, split decision, in my opinion. Open up the main card, we have Kevin Holland and De Ridder, another pick'em fight. I mean, this is one of those cards where I could easily see myself going 0 for 5 on this card, or 0 for 14. This has so many pick'em fights on it, but that's why I love the UFC. That's why I love this card. This is an amazing card. I'm picking Kevin Holland, and I'm probably going to regret it. I've picked Kevin Holland outside of the Khamzat fight in pretty much every fight he's ever had, and I usually regret it, especially recently. He's 1-3 in his last 4, and I know he would always talk about, I just hate his mentality, to be honest, Kevin Holland. I don't like how people say, oh, imagine if he tried. It's not even that he's not trying, it's just he doesn't have the skills to be the champion. He lost to Marvin Vettori. he was never going to be the champion. You know what I mean? I think he's very overrated, but I'm still picking him because De Ridder, I don't think has a good gas tank compared to Kevin Holland. And I think, yes, he is very good on the ground. And yes, Kevin Holland at 185, that is not Kevin Holland's division, in my opinion. I think he's better at 170. He's very weak and not strong for this division. He's undersized. He's very long for the division. I think that he will get taken down, but I think he's good enough to not get submitted. And I think that on the feet, he is much better and much more powerful. We've seen De Ridder get knocked out, and I think Kevin Holland will find the shot late in the fight because as De Ridder is failing takedowns or Kevin Holland is getting up immediately, De Ridder, his hands are going to slowly come down, and I just believe that Kevin Holland is going to eventually find that shot, in my opinion. Kevin Holland was talking about being a gatekeeper. If he loses this fight, he's 1-4 in his last 5, and I don't think he'll be ranked in either division. So there's nothing to even gatekeep. That's how bad he's been this past year or so. I think he has something to prove. He's been a disappointment his whole career. You know, I like Kevin Holland. I'm just disappointed because I feel like he could do a lot better. But yeah, moving on to the prelims. Payton Talbott versus Barcelos. I'm going to go with Payton Talbott by a first round KO. I think Barcelos getting knocked out by Umar, who is good on the feet but doesn't hold much power. If it was by like a head kick, I wouldn't be that worried, but I don't think he's that durable. I think that Barcelos is a solid fighter. He's old, but he's not a can by any means. And I could see him having success against Talbott, but I think Talbott is just eventually going to find the shot. It's set up for him to win. First round KO, in my opinion. Next up, we have Serghei Spivac versus Jailton Almeida. Spivac's good. You know, he's young, and I think this may be a crazy take. I think that he could be a future champ if it wasn't for Aspinall and then Jones retiring, in my opinion. I think he's super young. He's a legit talented heavyweight. He's not a bad fighter. He finished Tybura, who's a solid, you know, it's heavyweight, but he's a top 10, top 8 heavyweight right now. And he finished him within a round. It looked like that was Tom Aspinall in there. I think Almeida, though, is the better grappler, and I think Almeida was taking down Blades, controlling him, which is super impressive. Spivac, he did have a better performance against Derek Lewis, but I just think Almeida definitely on sauce. I think that he's going to win this. I don't think he's going to submit him. If he could submit Serghei Spivac, then I want to see that Aspinall fight after if Aspinall beats Jones, or even if he loses. But yeah, I'm going to go with Almeida by a decision. Next up, we have Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana, I think is how you say it. Short notice fight. I'm going to go with Bogdan by a first round knockout. This is short notice, and I think he would have knocked out Johnny Walker as well. I just think he holds a bunch of power. I'm not that high on him, to be honest. I don't think he's that great. I picked Ryan Spann to beat him, so that, you know, should show how highly I think of him. And Ryan Spann was landing good shots on him. Bogdan, his striking defense is not really good at all, but he has a solid chin. He did get pretty much knocked out by Volkan Ozdemir. I think it was a submission, but still, he has no striking defense. But I'm going to pick him. I think that he could get this done, in my opinion. Moving on, this is another really close fight. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. I could easily see Diego Ferreira winning this, even though he's 40 years old for a 155er, which is super old. I just can't picture him getting back-to-back upsets. He is very hard to hold down. This is one similar to the Moicano fight where I have Diego Ferreira should win, even though he's the underdog, just stylistically, but I think Grant Dawson is really good, and even though Diego is very hard to hold down, and he has a ton of power, and Grant Dawson got knocked out by a jab from Bobby Green, which is insane. And Ferreira, he is chinny, but it's Grant Dawson, so he doesn't really have to worry about the power. I just think I'm going to pick Grant Dawson by a decision. I think he's a good enough grappler where he will be able to hold down Diego Ferreira, in my opinion. 29-28, I think Diego Ferreira will win the first round. The second round will be super close, and Grant Dawson has solid cardio, and I think he'll win the third round. Moving on, we have Zachary Reese versus Bekov, I believe. Another short notice fight. This one I have absolutely no clue about Bekov. I saw that he has a decent amount of finishes. He's from Dagestan. UFC debut, short notice. Zachary Reese, he has really good power. He's really dangerous, especially on the feet. The Cody Brundage loss, I thought, was a fluke. I think he beats him if they do a rematch. I think that they should do a rematch for that fight. I don't know much, again, about Bekov. Both guys haven't fought really good competition at all. Zachary Reese, he is a solid grappler. He's not a bad grappler. I'm gonna go with Bekov. Moving on, we have Rosa versus Perez. Perez, a solid grappler. She does usually get the takedowns. I'm gonna be honest with this fight. I don't really watch the tape for female fighters, and I'm just going to pick Rosa because I'm going to trust that she could stuff the takedowns. She's definitely fought way better competition. They're the same age, and she's over a 2-1 favorite. I'm going to assume that the odds makers, they don't want people to make money off of Perez. I'm going to go with Rosa by decision in this fight. Moving on, we have, I believe it's Nakamura versus Gafarov. I'm going to go with Nakamura by decision. I know that he's very powerful on the feet, but I don't think he's going to knock him out because I think that he's going to use his grappling, and I just think he's going to out-grapple Gafarov to a 30-27 decision, in my opinion. Moving on, the last few fights. The next fight, Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sopai. I'm going to go with Sopai in this matchup. He was kind of winning the Oliveira fight, even though he barely lost the second round, so he wasn't really winning. He won the first round, and he was winning the second round, I believe, until he got reversed, if I'm not mistaken, and then Oliveira. We've seen how good Oliveira has looked, especially against Ricky Simón, since the Sopai fight. And Sopai, short notice, the biggest problem and why he lost that fight, he had a horrible gas tank, and there is an excuse. He took it on short notice. I think he took it on like a week's notice. And he looked good, and I think Turcios isn't that good. So I think Sopai is going to win. He's very young. I think he's like 24 or something. I'm going to go with Sopai by a 29-28 decision. Moving on, we have Clayton Carpenter versus Ulanbekov, I believe. This is tough. Carpenter really impressed me in his last fight. He looked good in the striking and the grappling, and he was able to get the finish, I believe. Ulanbekov, though, he's a little bit older, more experienced. He already has the losing experience. I think he lost to Tim Elliott, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's also pretty good on the feet. I'm going to go with Ulanbekov. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded, and I don't think he's going to get the submission. Also, it's just hard to pick against the Dagestanis. I'm going to go with Ulanbekov by a 29-28 decision. That is all my picks. Let me know who you guys have for the main card or any of the prelims, but that is it for me. And yeah,